Hello, everyone. Welcome back into Gateway Tailgate, your St. Louis podcast. I am Sean Sprout. That is Adam Freeman. Say hello, Adam.
Hello, Adam.
And that is Kenny Hutton. Say hello, Kenny.
Hello, Kenny.
Leave it to the most dad to do the biggest dad joke to start us off. Thank you for that. So,
You're welcome.
Somber episode today, guys. We are going to discuss the Blues bowing out to the Winnipeg Jets in the first round of the NHL playoffs. I don't know really where to kick us off other than just say that really sucked. And, yeah. Adam?
Let's start with game one. Game one, the Blues lose 5-3. Game two, the Blues lose 2-1, and then it changes gears. Blues win game three, 7-2. Game four, 5-1. They go back to the Great North and lose in Winnipeg 5-3. Come back home, win 5-2, and that takes us to last night. We purposely waited for game seven to get a 24-hour settle zone. I think Kenny said it best this morning. Woke up feeling slightly okay with it, or however you put it. I think after 24 hours, that's kind of how we all feel. But yeah, let's dive into game seven. Started out pretty well, right, boys?
So to Tarantino, this whole thing, what I said this morning, this is the exact text I'm looking at right now. This is the thought that's been going through my mind this morning. I want to say this to. Oh, I could have skipped that part. You were as close to a top 5 pick as you were to beating the Jets. You have to look at it as a positive. The rebuild is officially over. The time is now. And I think, listen, this is a eulogy to the 2024, 2025 St. Louis Blues, but you have to be impressed. You can be disappointed. You can be upset, but you have to see the positives in the season we just had.
And I totally agree. We'll get it. I have a whole bunch of thoughts on next year, on where this team is at. Let's do that. Let's wrap that up at the end. Let's focus on game seven first. I can't be mad about game seven. The Jets did not score on a shot on goal. Every one of their goals was a deflection, and 3 of the 4 were not even on goal. They were, Perfetti's first one was almost a 45-degree angle. Then you had the second one was the tip off of either Sutter or Shen's stick. Nobody really knows, I believe. And then the third one was that the one off Parayko? What the hell was that third goal? I can't remember what the third goal was.
That third goal was thrown across the slot, and I guess the criticism, if you want to give anybody criticism on that play, I'm going to give Parayko criticism. My brother texted me, was like, he should have put his face in the way of that puck.
I think that might have been it.
Yeah, and I don't know who. I don't know who it deflected off of, but Parayko had to make that play.
And then the overtime winner was a deflection on a shot that was, it didn't touch anybody. I don't want to call them fluke goals because shout out to the Jets for being able to make those plays. But they're 4 deflections. You can't be mad at Binnington for that.
No, I don't think you can. And I honestly, talking to Charlie today, did the Jets score a goal that was straight up? And what I mean by that is like...
Oh, yeah, they definitely. In the series, 100%.
I cannot recall one. In all honesty, like the Scheifele goals in game, was that 1 or 2, where he like tries to like hit the puck and then it flukily goes over Jordan Bennington's right your shoulder, whatever shoulder it was. Like I don't think they scored a clean goal all series. Again, I could be wrong, but that's what Stanley Cup champions do.
Yeah, they find ways to put a puck on net. The goal by Perfetti was absolutely marvelous. Like I think that's the Crosby play. The power play pass down just below the circle and then kind of like deflect shot. I'm not even going to call it a shot or a deflection. It was kind of a mix of the both. And somehow put it into the upper 90 on the opposite side of the goal over Binnington. Like there's nothing you can do about a goal like that.
So I think I'm a little more down than you guys are. I understand like the optimism to an extent, but you were up 2-0 in the first inning. You take a dumb penalty. You give up a power play goal. Granted, we only had 2 penalties the whole game, so better than what we have been over the rest of the series. That's fine. But the only period that you outshot Winnipeg was the first period where you outshot them 7-3. Winnipeg played a better game from there on out. They had 73 hits to the Blues 49, and that was punishing in a 2 overtime game, and you could clearly tell that was taking its toll on the Blues late. I'm a little down on this because you were up 2-0. You were up 3-1 with a minute and a half left in the game, and then you give up a second goal and you give up a third goal with a minute and a half left. That's backbreaking, man. It's really hard for me, even 24 hours out, to look at that and be positive.
I mean, okay, ultimately, here's my thing. One, we've already won the Stanley Cup. We've won the Stanley Cup, so it's easier for me to, like, reflect instantly. Like, this is not the end-all, be-all. This is not, oh, shit, we got to wait again until next year. Been to the top of the mountain. The top of the mountain's great, but I understand the struggle that it takes to get there. What I will say is two things, honestly. Will be really interested to see what happens with the injury report. A lot of the teams, once they get eliminated, they list all the injuries. And absolutely, Sean, the play in that last 2 minutes was pathetic.
Yeah.
But that's not going to take away from my opinion of the series as a whole. You went toe-to-toe, and you took the best team in the NHL to 2 overtimes in a do-or-die situation. Because if Pavel Buchnevich skates 20 feet before he fires a puck, we're talking about the Blues playing the Stars right now.
And I understand looking at, like, the series as a whole and being like, okay, we weren't even supposed to be there, right? Like, we were talking about, I think you said it, Kenny, multiple times in podcast and in our group that, like, we were looking at a top 5 pick at one point this season. I understand that. I'd be really curious to see if any other team has lost a playoff series when they chased the opposing goalie 3 times.
I don't think so.
That would be a great stat to look up. I
think I heard somebody say it on yesterday's broadcast that no team has chased a goalie 3 times in any series.
That's why this one hurts so much, because you had them on the ropes. You had the Vezina Trophy winner essentially on, like, beat multiple times in that series. He's going to be a finalist for the Hart. You had him chased multiple games. You had him rattled in Game 7. Then we take a dumb penalty and let him right back in it. And after we scored those first 2 goals, the next 2 or 3 shots on Hellebuck were all basically from the point or farther and were right to the middle of his chest, giving him confidence, getting some saves under his belt. It just felt like a massive missed opportunity.
Well, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago. In Game 1, they went into the third period up 3-2, and they allowed 3 goals in the third period. In Game 2, they should have beat the Jets in a 2-1 game. They should have beat them, but they had dumb penalties that allowed this to happen. Then they won 3 and 4. Game 5, I'll give to the Jets. I mean, in reality, the Blues beat them for 6 games, 2 out of 3 periods. Unfortunately, they have to play 3 periods, and they lost the third period in 3 of those games. So, I mean, yes, Sean, I agree. I mean, it is highly disappointing. I mean, I think I turned the TV off. I don't think I texted many people after it, like, just because it was there. And Kenny said it, and I can't remember who said the original tweet. This was the best 8 seed probably since the Kings that won the Stanley Cup. And probably even a better team than that. Like, if you would have taken the Blues last 2 months, they would have been the President's Trophy team. Like, they were that good over really like February, March, and then April. So it is highly disappointing, but we weren't the top 5 pick. And you see how that happens in the NHL draft. Not because you're a top 5 pick doesn't mean you're going to get the top 5 pick. Which somehow the Islanders got the number 1 pick when they were 10th best, whatever. So yeah, I mean, it is a disappointing series, but you have to look at the upside, is that they had the President's Trophy team on the absolute brink of elimination. I mean, it doesn't get much more eliminated than having to score 2 goals in the last 2 minutes to force it to overtime.
Kenny, looked like you were going to say something.
I don't remember what I was going to say at this point.
I got one more thing. I saw this as we were getting ready to come on from the best arena announcer in the league, Tom Calhoun. Just some numbers that were crazy as far as how the Blues won. They had 15 home wins in a row to end the season. That's playoff and regular season. They had a 12-game franchise 12-game record franchise winning streak. Jesus, it's late. I can't read and do all this stuff. Guys, who had the second most points in the first round of the playoffs? Anybody want to take a guess?
Cam Fowler.
Cam Fowler. Anybody want to take a guess who number 1 was?
Not Cam Fowler.
It was Connor McDavid.
Wow. Yeah.
Connor McDavid and Cam Fowler being mentioned in the same sentence is absolutely incredible.
McJesus is a disciple.
Yeah. The fourth line, the Foxa line. How many points did they accumulate?
Oh, I want to say it's like 12.
It was 13.
Wow.
13 points from the fourth line. And this is something I was talking to, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Madison. This team reminded me so much of 2019 because they were deep all the way through.
Yeah.
The Jets were so good, top 2 lines, and then they fell off for 3 and 4. The Blues were deep, 1, 2, 3, which was incredible. And that was missing Dylan Holloway. Like, let's not forget, everybody's going to say, if Winnipeg would have lost, everybody would have said, oh, well, you injured Connor you injured Scheifele, and then you took Morrissey out in Game 7. And everybody would point to that and be like, oh, injuries and all this stuff. We didn't have Dylan Holloway. They've absolutely led this team for 13 games in a row. And that is a massive kill. I mean, that, again, we talked about it going into the entire playoffs, is that shifted the lines drastically.
It absolutely did. And you could see that it was affecting guys in other scenarios. Yeah. For example, I think I've got a foot off of the Jordan Kyrou train because of his play in the third period. Like, if Dylan Holloway is on the ice in the third period, I feel a little bit better than I do about Jordan Kyrou. Jordan Kyrou's got the puck in the offensive zone. Yeah, great, fine, by all means. But it seems like he can't make a defensive play, and he kind of floats out there.
I think he's one of those guys, though, that was injured.
Well, and that's why I'm saying I'm going to hold a lot of judgment on the actual play until the injury report comes out. You know, my brother, very good hockey player, said Broberg looks like he's floating around out there and doesn't know where he was. Well, he got hit at some point. Maybe he didn't know where he was. Buchnevich made a couple errors. You know, Thomas didn't really want to shoot the puck. I know that's more his style, but I felt like you could have won it in overtime at least twice, and Thomas made a
Oh my God. The 3-on-2 that he came down freaking central. Jesus. Yeah.
What I will say, though, is you needed guys like Bolduc and Snuggerud to get playoff experience. That's huge.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Snuggerud had 4 points in the series, and to put it in perspective, what you were saying about Kyrou, he only had 3 points through 7 games. So there's got to be something wrong with him. That's a 30-goal a season guy that you're relying on in that playoff run. So.
Yeah, especially when his only goal was that fluke goal in Game 7. Then I don't want to call it a fluke goal. It snuck through, and then he was able to tip it in. I mean, it's a goal. You're in the 30 part of the net. It's a goal. I don't care. But that was his only goal.
So I know I'm not the one in charge of the outline always, but I have 2 questions for you gentlemen. Mm-hmm. What do you think is going to happen, Stars versus Jets?
I think Stars are I think Stars are a better team, and that's kind of crazy to say against a team that won the President's Trophy. But top to bottom, I think they're deeper. I have Stars probably winning in 6.
I'd say Stars in 6. I think the last 2 games were absolutely insane. I mean, Rantanen getting a natural hat trick in Game 7 was incredible in the third period. In the third period, nonetheless. I fell asleep. I fell asleep in that game.
In that game.
At the third period. It was a long day Saturday. And so I fell asleep when it was 2-0 right at the beginning of the period. And then I woke up with like 2 minutes left right as he scored a hat trick. And I looked over at my brother. I go, "What the hell did I miss?" I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Dallas, and honestly, I think Dallas represents the Western.
And I think Dallas is healthier too. So I'm making a clean sweep. Dallas in 6.
Yeah.
You guys might have prepped this. What do we think the Blues do in the offseason? Or what is your wish list for the Blues? Because I think that's been actually more of a question that I talked to today, like when I was at my work life. Like, what do you think the Blues need to do?
Adam, you want to go first?
Yeah, I got a laundry list. Number 1 is you have to sign Radek Faksa. There is no question you re-sign him. I'd pay him the $3 million that he had last year. Or this year. I don't care. I think you need him as your 4th line center and need to have that line back. And the other part of all this is that this roster only has 2 people, really 3 if you count Joel Hofer, that are any bit of a free agent, either unrestricted or restricted. Fox is unrestricted. I would re-sign him. I would not re-sign Ryan Sutter. I think he was very valuable to this team, but I don't think I bring him back unless he wants to be a seventh defenseman at best.
Yeah.
Obviously, a re-sign Joel Hofer. We were talking this before you got on. He is probably the best potential goalie candidate out there, even though he's an RFA. And I could see a team 100% giving him an offer sheet.
Yeah, the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah. Well, the Oilers also have a defenseman that's 26 years old that is an RFA too, and Evan Bouchard, that they may have to figure out how they're going to pay him. So that was all part of the Broberg thing and Holloway. I think the biggest things for me, though, is that you have to get rid of either Falk or Krug, one of the two.
Torrey Krug will never play hockey again.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm
it's expected
assuming.
that he's not going to play.
Yeah. And then that means you have to get rid of Nick Leddy. I don't care if you have to buy him out or see if he does something like Saad, but I think you have to get rid of him. And then you have Tyler Tucker and Matthew Kessel as your basically third pairing, something along those lines. I would still like to go out and get a top four defenseman if possible, to be able to put down, and maybe even that moves Falk down. I'm not totally sure. And I think you have to get a second line center. Kenny, your dad said that, and I kind of been going back and forth. But I think Shen is your third line center. And I kind of like the idea of Bolduc and Dvorsky learning from Shen and learning the position from him, which they're both centers, so they're both going to be playing on the wing. And it's going to be a super awkward line because really Shen is your only like winger on that one. But I think you have to go out and get a center. And then you would have Buchnevich, Thomas, and Snuggerud or Holloway on the first line. And then you'd have Kyrou, Snuggerud, Holloway, and your third center on the second.
Yeah, I think you need to get a true number two center. And this is nothing against Braden Shen. I love him, but he's lost a step. He looked a little slow out there, but he would be perfect on the third line. So I don't think the second line center is on the Blues currently. I think you have to go find one.
I mean, it could be. I mean, Bolduc had massive strides. I just don't know if he's there to be able to take those big draws. That's the only thing.
Yeah. I think you need a defenseman. I don't care what hand he is. I want him to be about 6'5", and I want him to be ugly because it doesn't matter if he gets hit because he's going to hit you back. We need some sandpaper on that blue line.
I agree.
Nothing against Cam Fowler and Nick Leddy and Justin Falk. Well, Justin Falk sucked last night. You need some toughness. And you need somebody that when they step on the ice, the other team is afraid of them, like Stanley, right? Like the 6'7" guy. You're like, holy shit. You need somebody like that because Parenko's not going to do it. But I want to see him maybe Parayko take more slap shots from the point and aimed at opponents.
So I agree with the second line center. I also agree with the top four defensemen. The problem is that I don't know how much the market is going to dictate what you can get, especially if they. I know the cap is increasing, but especially if they do re-sign Faksa or Suter, which I think they probably will, at least one of them. I'm worried that you're either going to get either a second center or a top line defenseman. I don't think you're going to be able to go out and get both. That worries me.
I do agree with you in that sense, but I also wonder if there is a right trade to be made. I
think it would have to come from a trade. I mean, just looking at the list, the name that jumps out at me, but I feel like it's going to cost too much, is maybe Sam Bennett from Florida. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I don't have the cap numbers in front of me, so I don't know what the Blues are going to be looking at, and it's still kind of hard to say until we really get into the offseason. But I don't know if they're going to be able to afford him, but they might have to move on from somebody else that we're not expecting if they're going to make a move like that. But I like that name a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Bennett's at the top of my list. I don't think that happens. I think they find a way to keep him in Florida.
Florida's got some cap trouble.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so that right now, looking at Puckpedia, they're sitting at 95. Oh crap, 95 million is what the salary number is going to be. Right now, projected, we're at 89.5, and that is with Krug listed. So you take away Krug. But potentially it's 6.5, so that gives us a little bit over 12 million in cap space.
If you give 3
There's
to
a lot that
both,
they can do in cap space. I mean, and then that you put Foxa back in, so then you have 9 million or so with Foxa coming back in. So
Okay. So I'm going to ask a question. Do you make the trade and try to get Brady?
I would in a heartbeat. I don't think it gets done though. I don't think it's
it
possible.
really depends on what you're gonna have to give up a lot. It really depends, like, because this core of this team, I think, is a couple pieces away. They just proved it in a 7-game series with the President's Trophy winning team.
But what did I just say we need, though? We do need some grit.
Yeah.
I agree.
He's
I agree.
he's a
There's
grit
anybody
center. I
that's
mean,
got grit. It's the Kachuk boys.
mhm.
Listen, he checks boxes, but he also opens a lot of boxes too, because you're gonna have to give up a lot to get him.
What do you think realistically, what do you think you give up for Brady?
I think the first name they're gonna say is somebody like a Thomas. Yes.
No, they wouldn't. Chuck Thomas would. It would. I mean, yeah, he's on their list. It starts with Kyrou.
Yeah.
Immediately, the first one is Kyrou. I think then it is probably a Dvorsky, Bolduc, or Snuggerud. One of those two or
So,
three.
I agree with all that. I think the first name that they mentioned though is Thomas because of the longevity of the deal. That's what they're going to ask for. I don't think we're going to entertain that, and I think we'd be willing to give up Kyrou, but I think the first name that they do ask for is Thomas.
I mean, let's be honest. Offensively for the Blues, if you're trying to make a trade with them to get somebody, you're asking for Robert Thomas, who...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's on a lot of lists, but I would put him in as a top center. Like, he's not
100%.
He's not McKinnon level, right, or McDavid, but who is?
Right. He's in that second tier. I mean, literally, it's probably... I'm not saying that he's third, but you have probably McDavid and McKinnon in their own, and then you have a whole bunch of people in that second tier.
Yeah, he's in that next
and he's
wave.
in that second tier.
Yeah.
100%.
I'm taking the cop-out answer to that. It really depends on what you could potentially be losing in that deal. I would love to have Brady.
Do you trade Jordan Bennington?
No.
I mean, do you
not without
entertain that?
Not without the possibility of keeping Hofer, because we just talked about Hofer could be offer sheeted or being taken. So I'm not.
So even then, like, we all questioned it before the deadline of do we trade Bennington, and we all said that if the right trade came across, we would entertain the idea. I don't think now you can, because this team is not far away. They really aren't. Like, you get a second line center that is a top 6 center, or whatever, however you want to put it, that makes this team legit. And that's without doing anything else. That's without potentially moving Krug and Falk and Leddy and upgrading your defense. Like, we all questioned the Cam Fowler trade when it happened, and then we realized, oh, that was the trade deadline deal. And thank God it happened early versus at the deadline, because we would have paid a fortune for it. But if we go out and we get the center that we need, we don't have to trade Bennington. And I would extend the crap out of his deal. Okay, cool. How long do you want to be in St. Louis? How much longer do you want to play? Let's buy it out. Like, let's have a 2 to 3 year run where this team is competing for next year. The Central Division should be their goal. This is a Central Division team, the way that they played the last 2 months. And you can't do that without Bennington.
Which, I'll just reiterate, is frustrating, because Winnipeg was 1 game away from blowing their team up. That would have made winning the Central a hell of a lot easier. But to go back to it, I think that you need to go out and try and get a center without making a trade. Brady Tkachuk has 3 years left on his deal, so the likelihood of him getting traded is probably next year. So go out and make a free agent signing, and then I think you entertain the Brady Tkachuk trade next season.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I'll also say this: I love him to death, but Sonny's got to go.
Oh yeah, I think he works his way out. Next year, your third line is going to be Dvorsky and Bolduc Snuggerud. One of those two around Braden Shen. He has no spot
let me
to
think
be.
about that for a moment.
Yeah, and that's not even saying that by the end of the year it will probably be Dvorsky, Bolduc, Snuggerud all on one line together. Like, that just becomes insane. And the crazy part is that we haven't mentioned Jake Neighbors, who had a fantastic year and
I forgot about him.
Yeah.
and who is probably the replacement for Braden Shen at some point. We didn't mention Alexander Texier, who had a great postseason and a great end of the year. We didn't mention Toropchenko. Like, this team is deep.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that is like, we have to go all in now. Like, there is no more rebuild. Kenny said it. There's no more rebuild. This team has to go for a cup. Let's win the Central next year, and let's go for a cup.
I think you're going to get production. You're going to get firepower from some of the younger guys. Neighbors is going to continue to improve. You've got Snuggerud. You've got Dvorsky. Let's go get a really mean top 4 defenseman and just fucking go for this thing, man. Next year, if it doesn't happen next year, it doesn't happen. And then how about we call up Brady Kachuk's agent and say, hey, what's it gonna take? Let's figure something out. Let's get a top 4 defenseman in here, man.
I like this idea. All right, we've solved all the problems. I think
Perfect.
that's it.
Army, go get him.
Or is it Steam technically?
If you
that's a good question. That's a good question.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Apparently in Springfield, did he go to Springfield? That the Swedish kid they drafted, the Jurchik or however, apparently he has made a breakout. So I mean, I'm not gonna hate it if they think they've got a top 4 guy out of him, even though I feel like he is shorter. Hold on.
I'll look at it real quick.
You can be
sure
sure. Look at Walker. Look what he just did in that last season.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, but on defense, it's a little bit different, though.
To be fair, Walker is Australian, and they're all mean.
That's
good. They're all just psychos. Jurasek's 6'2", and so Kenny, that brings up the point that we were talking about before we came on here. Colin Rolfe is that kid. He is the kid that would be the big mean defenseman. The 6'5", he's going to Michigan State next year. Like he's a couple years away, but I think that we have it. It's just getting there. I mean, and that's the hard part. Like we've seen what happens down Market Street when you say, "Oh, they're coming. Don't worry, the kids will be there." And then the kids, it turns out we ruined them. Now, I don't think the Blues are anywhere near that level, but I don't think you can pass on it. They have to go get the big mean defenseman now to replace Nick Leddy. That has to be what happens.
That should definitely be priority number 1. To kind of put a bow on all of this, can you guys give me a letter grade for the St. Louis Blues 2025 season?
Go for it, Kenny.
What I'll say is this is going to be a grade on a curve. Because Army told us at the beginning of the season to expect a rebuild. And we didn't get that. So I'm going to give them a B- based on expectation. You know what? I'm just going to call it a B. I mean, to be fair, you cannot be disappointed when the beginning of the season we were basically told expect to be disappointed. And at least they saw an opportunity, right? Like factoring in like the Cardinals. What the hell are the Cardinals doing, right? Are they rebuilding? Are they retooling? Yeah. Blah 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 blah. Army has been very precise and to the point. Hey, if I see my opportunity, I'm going to take it. So I'll give them a B.
That's what I was thinking too. I was in that B to B-. I think that we're only in this B- position or B position because of the 12-game win streak. Again, let's not remember we tied the Flames to get into the playoffs. So if we would have lost any of those 12 games, or or lost in overtime in any of those 12 games, whatever, it would have been a totally different scenario. We'd definitely be talking about a B- team. I think there is so much upside that it pushes me to that B. I would say B+. There's a lot of upside out of this team that we didn't think that we would see.
I'm right there with you. I think that's the perfect answer. B, maybe I could be talked into a B+. The season started off rough, but we were expecting rough. Firing your coach isn't great because that means you had the wrong coach to begin with. But going out and getting Monty, excellent move to get into the playoffs was great. They were 1 second away from an A for me. That's really what it comes down to, right?
Yeah.
Sean, your point on Drew Bannister is interesting because I think that was part of the pivot is the Blues were going to have to change so much to fit his system. Drew Bannister is still the coach of the St. Louis Blues. If Jim Montgomery is not fired by Boston, stupidly. So
yeah, and we're giving a very different grade if that's the case because I don't.
Well, and I think too that's a great point, Kenny, is that Montgomery came in and asked the players what they wanted to do. One of the coolest stories about Montgomery starting is that he asked Thomas, "What do you want to do? What do you want to be? What type of player do you want to be?" And he mentioned Patrice Bergeron, and Montgomery goes, "Great, I coached the guy. I got all this stuff for you." And he He gave him the video. He said, "Hey, go nuts. Look at all this stuff and come back." And Thomas watched everything real quick and said, "Hey, here's my notes. Here's what I want to do. Here's how I'm going to do it." And Monty said, "Cool, let's do it." And that's what that's what changed Thomas around, because Thomas was not having a great year to start. So I think that makes a massive change.
All right, let's get out of here, guys. That's the in memoriam for the St. Louis Blues season. Really looking forward to next year. We're not even going to talk about St. Louis City, the Cardinals right now, or the Battlehawks, because I don't want to get us bummed out even more. So let's go ahead and end it there. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will see you next week. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.